Sure. Okay. Okay. So we're recording. And wow, we have friends, lots of friends who have been in our classes here. Barsha's been in here forever, and Edward, and um, can't remember the name of his bird, but Eureka, I think it
Eureka.
is. And been here forever. And Marcia Berlin also, and Joan and David, Cherie. I mean, it's like old home meeting. Even Alice is becoming a longtime customer. Welcome from Idaho. And one of my favorite people of all time is also in the room tonight, and that's Tiffany O'Donnell. And it's so good to see your face. And you've referred more people to these classes than any doctor that I've interacted with in Eugene. So I wanted to personally thank you for doing that. Why, why don't you unmute and say hello? I met Tiffany as she was the principal up in Oak Ridge Elementary School, and she started coming to some of the classes that we're holding up there, and she really tried to make an impact just as I was trying to do in the school system. And I don't know if she's having any success with that now or not. That's one of the questions that I have to see if you're still with the school system where you moved to, and whether you've been able to have any success. And it looks like maybe you have a little trouble unmuting or whatever, but figure it out. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, I've said enough.
How was your family visit to Minnesota?
Okay, so if you want to hear about a happy man, that's me. So we got on the plane in Portland and we took off, and everything was beautiful. No delays. Got into Minneapolis, Minnesota, picked up by our daughter. Spent a few days watching the grandkids. We have three of them in their activities. One of them, we went to a concert. She was in the choir. The next one was in fencing. The next one was in lacrosse, and we played a little tennis with him and chess. He's the youngest at 11. The others were 15 and 17. And we had meals every night. We didn't go out one time to eat, although my daughter did buy something from an Asian restaurant, take out food, but she made the meals every night. And guess what? They were all totally whole food, plant based. She was very kind. It's not that their family is totally whole food, plant based at this time. They have come a long way over the last 12 years. And my daughter told me she was in Guatemala. She's an emergency medicine physician. She went down a couple months ago with one of her friends in a medical mission, and she was telling us about a dinner that they had there. And she said there were five of us who were vegetarian. So she's come a long way from uh, the meat eating days. She's not quite yielded on the dairy products and the eggs and cheese yet, but she is slowly coming along. But what really causes me to jump up and down is we went for a walk the first day after we arrived there the next morning. My grandson, Jack, who's 11 years old, took us on a walk. And we talked about one of the school activities they had, at which they were talking about choices, food choices. And what did they have at the booth? How Not to Age was the book, Gregor's book. And he said he learned so much about what are healthy food choices. And he talked to us about the environment, how he's encouraging his parents to, take in consideration what they're doing to the environment. And it was just like very heartwarming music to my ears that here's this 11-year-old boy who's really getting an education at the school he's going to. Now, it's a private school, it's not a public school. So I don't know, it's a little tempered. They're not changing the world, but that's my goal, is for the kids to understand about global warming and healthier food choices. And okay, I've gone on long enough. Did I have fun? Yes. Marcia.
Well, I just have a thought. I had sent the live, like, I had sent your information for so many people. I'm a stamper, and one of the thing I stamp cards, and I do all sorts of fun things with my cards. Anyhow, I had sent my information. So many people send me a note back. Oh, I've had a heart attack. I'm sorry I haven't written for 2 months. Oh, I've got hypertension. I got this. So I just sent out a blanket to like 30 people about your classes and what time, because they're all over the nation. And
That's
now I don't think one has gotten on.
well, but you've planted a lot of seeds.
I hope so.
They need to be watered a little bit longer.
Or maybe I should send it every month. I don't know. But I have a question. If you know anything
Go ahead.
about ALS. My sister was diagnosed with ALS, and she hasn't been able to converse with anybody for months. It's affected her speech, and now she's got a feeding tube because I don't know, whatever. She can't swallow right or whatever. I'm not sure. Do you know much about ALS? I know it's a terminal disease.
It's terminal. It's a horrible thing to have. It's one of the last things that I'd ever want, aside from maybe dementia, but I don't know. They're neck and neck. I surely wouldn't want ALS. And it's not a very pleasant way to leave the earth, and we have no treatment for that at this point in
Yeah,
our
I
history.
haven't found anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you there's any food that's going to alter the course of history for her. And maybe Alice has any other thoughts on that.
No, it's hard. And I think what the only thing that I know that's new is that they thought people were their cognition was preserved, like they were thinking clearly, and now the new data says no, they're really not even, their cognition is off too. More
Well,
than people think. Like it seemed like it was just they got weak and they couldn't breathe and they couldn't move, but that their mind was clear. Their mind apparently is not clear as well, and it's, that's really hard. I'm so sorry.
well, I was talking with my brother earlier today, and he said, and I have noticed too, you say one thing and she'll say one thing, and then 5 minutes later she'll say something else that contradicts what she said before. So I
Yeah.
think this has been affecting her mentally for a while, and now it's affecting her speech.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
No, there is a more significant mental component than was previously thought.
Yeah.
But Marcia, I have personally invited people to come and to this meeting and said, I'll be there too, come and try. And I've had zero success as well. People who could really, really benefit. And yeah, I just put it out there and,
I just think if I, these people say, yes, I don't want to be sick. I know, I think I phrased it. Are you tired of being sick and tired?
Uh-huh. That's
And,
good.
can you get yourself better by eating whole food, plant-based, and just listen to this lifestyle medicine? And I think it's a wonderful resource for people, and it doesn't cost anything. It's amazing.
So that's a question for Tiffany. If you're able to unmute, we'll try one more time. How do you get so many people? I know there's been at least 3 or 4 over the last several months that you've managed, but I know that you've been promoting this for a lot of years. And so maybe they just respect your decision making on this because you're such a staunch promoter.
I I just I think I try not to talk about it actually because I have hurt people's feelings because when you say the word diet, they think that you are judging them.
Uh-huh.
And so I've tried to say that it's a lifestyle, but I'm a lesbian, so I think they think I'm trying to recruit them to that. So I don't
Uh-huh.
know. I just try to live the healthiest life I can, and then if somebody finally does ask me about it, then I share it with them. And I always share a link to you in this class, and I talk about my experience with you, um, and sometimes it just takes a very long time. You know, the first time I mentioned it to my best friend was the first day that I discovered and started moving toward a whole food plant-based diet, and now it's been what 7 years, and she's finally ready to start. But that was when she got a diagnosis of being that she was headed toward type 2 diabetes, that she was ready.
Wow.
And it's a very fine line to walk because people become offended very quickly because it relates to their weight, and there's a lot of shame and defensiveness around that. So it's hard. It's really hard.
You bring up a really good point. And I try to avoid the word diet. I avoid the word, we're doing this for weight. I try to focus attention just on health or eliminating pills or not having to take pills. And people can relate to that without having to take offense, particularly, at least that I've found for myself. I don't know what they're saying behind my back.
Well, you asked about what I'm doing, and I'm not an administrator in schools anymore. I have gone back to teaching because I just found administration really, really difficult and long hours, and the new school that I'm going to, I think I'm going to be teaching maybe some cooking classes after school just to talk about, these are some really easy recipes that I like because people have been expressing an interest in it. So we'll see.
So in your new school district, is it kind of the same issue? We don't have control over the foods we serve the kids, and we're serving calorie rich and processed crap that's provided to us by the food industry, and nothing we can do about it? Or are they?
Yeah, and it's still, the USDA regulations that were devised by the people that are selling these highly processed foods. It's even if it's an easy healthy food, it's a hard sell because people think healthy means that it's not tasty. But I have found that just the small things that we do, like, so one thing is we're always supposed to serve fruit, and often the kids, when they're eating lunch, it's just too much. Kids nibble. They really shouldn't eat large meals. So when they turn down the fruit at lunch, then the cafeteria staff will wash it in white vinegar and water and then put it out for anybody that wants to bring it to their classrooms. Or, I was actually the one that pushed that, like, where are all these apples and grapes and things going when the kids don't eat them? And so I found that when we offer it to kids all day long, they love to eat fresh fruit. So I spend about $50 a week on, don't tell anybody, on apples, and they like cuties and they like grapes. So whenever grapes are on sale, I get a lot of those, and they will eat them constantly, which I think it crowds out all the other junk that they're eating. So I start with what they'll eat, and I just keep pushing in as much as I can with offering more interesting whole foods to get them excited about it.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Now that you mentioned fruit, I was, this afternoon, I was listening to the lecture by Dr. Greger down in Roseburg a couple months ago. And he brought up this point. If we could convince everyone in our population in the United States to eat one more serving of fruit a day, we would have 20,000 less cancers. Just one serving of fruit a day, crowding
Yeah.
out some of that other. And then he went into the organic versus non-organic. That is using organic, 20,000 prevention of death for one serving of fruit. Now, if you use conventional, he says, you may have an additional 10 deaths. So you wind up with 19,090 less deaths by eating non-organic. So if you're ever on the fence with anybody about whether they have to eat organic or whether they have to eat, whether they can okay to eat non-organic, his take is however you can get the fruit in, whatever they can afford, organic is best, but it's so much better to get any, whether it's conventional or organic. And I hope that message gets promoted far and wide.
Yeah, that's my number one response when people ask me where they can start is I say I try to eat 3 servings of fruit a day. And it doesn't matter if it's canned or fresh. I've found that if you put bananas in the refrigerator, they will stay to the exact ripeness whenever you put them in there. And so that's increased our banana consumption because that's another fruit that the kids love, and they would go bad if the kids didn't eat them right away. But if I put them in the fridge, then they lasted for like 2 weeks at that perfect ripeness. But anyway, I figure it crowds out all the other stuff. And so it's my first line of attack.
That's great.
Great.
Okay, anybody else have something to add? Anybody who's new to the class? Anybody? If you're new, maybe you could unmute and tell us how you found out about the class. I recognize most of the names, but there may be a couple new people.
If no one has anything, I wanted to show something I did with the website real quick.
You can do it real slow too. We have time.
Okay. All right. So for most of you guys are here, but if you are doing the class archives, just to make things a little more modernized, if you click on the class archives here for the previous ones, I have the complete, so there's still here as per year, but I have the complete class archives here now, just to make it more simple. And so if you click on that, you'll see here to see the previously recorded classes, click the link below, then go to videos. And so if you just click this link, it takes you right to the YouTube channel that we have. And then you just go to videos, click on that, and then it's just in reverse order. So here was our class last week here, and then here was 2 weeks ago, diabetes part 1, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. So it just goes in reverse order. And so then you can just watch any of the classes you missed or ones you want to watch again or anything. And it goes all the way back to when we first started. So you can look those up there. So just kind of one central place to look at them. And it shows you how many views that each of them have. So people can oh, that must be a popular one. Like that one has that many views. And so, but you can watch whichever ones you want. So I just kind of wanted to show that I'll go again here to, so it's something you're on the home page, and then you just go to class archives, which you can either click on it or you can see it's just got a little drop down here, and then just go to complete class archives. That takes you to here, and then you just click on this link. And then you can even subscribe right here if you click here, you could subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I think I don't know if you subscribe, if it sends it to your favorites, if you do other stuff on YouTube, but you can always just click the link from the website there and like it, because they like give you different categories here. But if you just click, remember just to click on the videos, then it'll just go in reverse order from the last classes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really
you.
good because I don't have YouTube and this would I could be able to watch these then. Yay, thank you.
I mean, it does go to YouTube. So if you clicked on it here, if you just went ahead and clicked on it, it just plays. I mean, it is YouTube, but here's the class from last week, and you could just watch it, expand the screen, and just watch last week's class. So let's go back here, exit that, pause that. Okay, all right. So that's all I wanted to show there.
So I have a thing.
Okay, Alice.
A couple of things. One, Scott, I was watching the video from 2 weeks ago because I missed the class and I got just called away, whatever, but you had mentioned that you were like borderline diabetic.
Mhm.
I was curious, were you still working out at how did that happen? What were you eating? Were you still exercising? And I was just wanting to hear more about it.
Yeah. So that was the year in 2012. I had ridden my bicycle 7,000 miles that year because all the heavy exercise. Yet my A1C was up to 6.2%. So I had, borderline high blood pressure, borderline high cholesterol. I wasn't on meds for any of those things yet. And then the A1C was 6.2. And so, obviously my parents don't have diabetes. I don't have anyone in my family that has diabetes. So I was really kind of surprised that I was that close to having diabetes. I was eating, quite a fair amount of fruits and vegetables and things, but I was, eating some fast food, eating pretty much meat and cheese every day, and just so I was pretty typical standard American diet. But I would say it was probably heavier in whole plant foods than the average American person. But I had that extra 47 pounds on me. It was just kind of marbled everywhere, and if I had my shirt off, you could see a little bit of abdominal fat, but nothing significant. And yeah, that's where I was. And then when I fixed the food, so by the next year I was only riding 3,000 miles a year, but my A1C dropped to 4.7. So I
So
was,
were you eating like
yeah,
lots of gels, those bicycle,
not really. Yeah.
so that
I mean,
wasn't the culprit or anything. Okay.
no, I wasn't eating a lot of simple sugary foods. I was, my fair amount of just, bananas, and, we'd eat, I'd eat lots of nuts and stuff. I ate that stuff, before I went plant-based, just because it was easy on all those long distance bike rides to eat that kind of stuff. So yeah, I wasn't like I was eating lots of simple sugar or anything, but yeah, that's where I was. And then just when I fixed the food, went plant-based, that's what dropped me from the 6.2 to the 4.7. Yeah, reversed that pre-diabetes.
I've been coming to this for a few months and listening to all this stuff, and then man, I get seduced by restaurants or dinners or I went to a conference and they served oodles of beige food and snacks, and I don't know, that I just get seduced. I that was it's very, very challenging. And then if I exercise, I get super hungry, and then I'm like, "Arr," and
Mhm.
just grab everything. And I'm really struggling, and I feel good when I don't know that I can give up 100% on the meat and maybe a little dairy, and but I've stepped it up big time, and I thought I was pretty healthy before, but then I get, I go to the dark side, especially, someone's dinner, some, uh, my very good friend had a birthday week and he got everybody he knew to take him out to dinner or lunch or whatever. And I went along on some of them, and he'd go to the restaurant, he'd say, it's my birthday. And then he'd get that free dessert, and we'd all get forks, and it was just, I very much struggle on this end.
Alice, this is one thing I think of. My mother died from Alzheimer's. My dad had dementia. Her mother had heart attack. Her husband had arterial sclerosis. My other grandmother lived in a home for 30 years, didn't know who anybody was. Nobody. Her husband died when he was 50. That was my destiny. I say, I am not going to have that. I'm going to live to be 100, and I'm going to tell everybody about whole food plant-based. Well, nobody wants to hear that. But
Alice, you're not alone. Welcome to the human race, huh? But, you know, this is a mindset, and I think there are other people who wanted to comment too. Marcia and Joan.
Well, I have, excuse me, I have a question.
Yes, Marcia.
About a month ago, my left wrist started hurting on the pinky side of the bone, with the bone and stuff there. Finally went to the doctor, had an x-ray. They found nothing wrong with it, except mild arthritis, which they said is normal for my age. It stings. It doesn't really burn, but it stings pretty much all the time. It's not too bad now, and it hurts all the time. I've been using turmeric, and
Turmeric,
today, I decided to take a capsule. Is there something else I can do? And I've been putting that Voltaren cream
Voltaren? Yeah.
on it sometimes. What else can I do? What else can I
Well, the
do?
Voltaren cream is okay for small areas of your body. It's probably okay. Turmeric, how much are you using? A quarter teaspoon, half a teaspoon, a teaspoon? How much?
Probably about a quarter, maybe. I just put it on. I don't really measure it.
Yeah, so maybe you could do a half a teaspoon. Do twice as much turmeric and see what happens.
Okay.
I think Gregor says you can go at least a teaspoon, maybe even a tablespoon. I'm not sure the exact amount, but I know many have taken more than the quarter teaspoon he recommends for everyone.
Okay.
And get the pinch of
Right.
black pepper on there too.
Right. I definitely put that on. Definitely.
Where
Okay.
is this? It's on your foot or your hand, or I'm sorry, I missed that part.
My hand.
It's the pinky
left
side of your hand.
Yes. Yes. And it seems to be around the bone. It doesn't seem to be in the joint. That's why I was surprised they said arthritis.
And it burns, you say.
Not really burns, stings. Like, I guess it could be a burn, but it doesn't really feel like, to me, it's a stinging feeling.
Sounds
So,
more like a nerve thing. I
Yeah.
think I would try capsaicin cream. What do you guys?
That's a reasonable thing to do.
okay.
But of course, that takes a prescription, I think. I don't know, is it that it's over the counter?
Okay.
Like
Well,
Icy Hot might have it in it. I think there are some over the counter options.
I do have
Okay.
some icy hot. I do have some of that. Thank you.
Okay, give it a try. Let us know what happens.
Okay.
Joan,
So Alice, I would say,
I will. Thank you.
you need new pictures in your brain. So I would watch a whole lot of the videos. I'd watch Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, Game Changer, Poison, all of those videos, and you will have new images in your mind as to what's in milk, why you don't want to eat chickens and pigs and cows. And when you see, they puncture the side of a cow and huge quantities of pus come out, I just play that over and over again. And then when they show you the pools of all of the pig urine and the smell and how it's destroying the homes of the people around it. I just think if we had a smell that came through our video, we would never eat pork again. Cause it's just, you just need new pictures in your brain about these foods and just say, you know, I have all these years that I've had the luxury to eat that way, but no more. Cause now I know the difference and I just don't want to eat that stuff.
That's pretty good advice. Reframing, you know, we try to teach people to reframe the events in cognitive behavioral therapy. It's your thought process to do that. So that's an excellent suggestion, Joan. Thank you. Anybody had experience with that? I've seen most of the movies you mentioned. You want to repeat some of those so Alice can get them down?
I think
And
they're on the website. Aren't they, Scott, on the class
Oh.
website?
Some of them are like on the Eugene Plant-Based Provider website, there's some, but the Food Inc. is another one. Yeah, Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy. Those are probably just those three would be enough because Food
And
Inc. I know is
Changer.
bad, and Game Changers is good. But if you're just wanting those negative, kind of grossed out, how bad the animal agriculture industry is, just those three, as far as just getting that, the Food Inc., Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy would probably be a big enough dose. But yeah,
And a
all the
lot
other
of
ones are
them-
great.
A lot of them are on Netflix. And if you go and look for one, you might discover other ones. I think that's how I discovered Poisoned. And there's one that came out during Black History Month, and they're trying to kill us. And it's about how things have really been targeted against African Americans on drugs and food and bad nutrition and diets. And so that's an easy way to learn, and it's pretty graphic.
Well, Scott, do you remember the name of, it's not called Alien, but it's one of the first ones that came out many years ago, which is, you know, it took about 10 minutes before tears were kind of rolling down my face on it. It was, can't remember. I'll maybe think about it by the end of the meeting. Okay, who else has something that is on their mind or would like to share your experience, how you managed to stay on track, the problems you've had and how you've overcome them? Go ahead, Marcia.
Well, you know, I'm in this book club and we're reading How Not to Age with Dr. Greger. And one of the things that I read this past week was back pain. And it said the back pain is caused by the cholesterol laden plaque obliterating the spinal arteries. And I thought, wow. I mean, it's such a simple thing, and you can eat whole food and you wouldn't have cholesterol build up in your spine. So I just think it's amazing what this book has opened my eyes to. And I see so many people in my little town that have had back surgery, have had awful, awful things done to them because that's what modern medicine does.
Okay.
Yeah, Beth said it was a movie you're thinking about, Charlie, was that Earthlings?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Alice, Earthlings. Earthlings, if you can make it past the first 15, 20 minutes without a tear in your eye.
I think that was the one, it was narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, I think.
Oh, let me tell you, it is really, for me, it was really gut-wrenching and really helped solidify that I was done completely. after watching some of the scenes in that movie. You saw it, didn't you, Scott?
Yeah, I saw Earthlings, if that's the one you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's it.
Try that. I know that I had read, I used to buy these barbecued chickens from Costco, and then I read an article on how they produce them, and the cruelty, and I could never eat it again. So I will, that may help, but it's not just meat, it's also like, sugar laden cookies,
Yeah.
or just like desserts and pastries and sugar, which make me feel terrible. And I know they're just so delicious at the time.
You just have to remember that's not even food, that's just drugs. Because it
Yeah.
just lights up the dopamine in your brain. So it's just hijacking you. You might want to, have you read The Pleasure Trap yet? That's a good one to read.
I haven't, I mean, I'm familiar with what you're talking about. I haven't read that one, but
Pleasure Trap by Doug Lyle.
And Alan Goldhammer.
Okay, we've got a couple more hands, Dave and Cherie, and then Joan.
I'm gonna lighten things up and make everybody feel better about themselves. You can listen to this story and say, I'm smarter than that guy. I want to warn about blueberries, especially Costco frozen blueberries.
Okay,
Each night I eat like 2 bowls of them. Well, what happens on the second bowl is your mouth kind of gets numb because you're eating frozen blueberries. And I bit the back of my tongue. I didn't even know I did it. Did not know I did it. And it's like, I got this blueberry back there. I can't get out. I had the blood blister the size of a blueberry.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, it popped the next day. And so for the next couple of days, I'm kind of drooling because I can't swallow. So, and if you see me drink my tea and I'm going, I'm trying to get it down. So if you're eating frozen blueberries that many, be careful.
That's an interesting story. I've never heard that before, but I know what you mean. I eat frozen blueberries at times, and we usually microwave them for a short bit every morning.
But you're smarter than I am.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Joan.
Okay, Alice, read Salt, Sugar, Fat.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got a list of books here and videos.
That one will really let you know how you are being controlled and manipulated with your salt and all those delicious cookies and all those things that are salty, and how they manufacture so many specific salts just to get you. And they spend billions of dollars just to get you. And you feel so manipulated, but that's a book you should read.
So Lisa Chick is in the room. How you doing tonight, Lisa? Are you able to be on camera, or are you going to stay in the background, or what's the story with you? If you're able to log on, that would be great, because we have a little case for you to answer.
I'm here. I'm just hanging out.
Okay, you're in your pajamas or whatever. We get it. So we're going to do a little roadside consult. You've got a person you're talking to on the phone who's telling you, I get this. I get it. It's a healthy thing to do, to eat whole plant foods, but I just get tempted. My friends call me over. They've got this food, these desserts, and they want to have some fun. It's another birthday party, and just struggling with, being able to stay on track. What would you, say to that person, or what have you said in the past? We're just kind of curious.
Yeah, I saw a patient in the clinic today. He's a 32-year-old guy with 3 kids, and he came in as a new patient. So this was the first time that we saw him. And he didn't really have anything pressing going on. He just kind of wanted to get everything in check because he hadn't been to a doctor in over 10 years. And he was overweight, or he is technically obese, BMI of 30. And he had kind of had a laundry list of things that he wanted to talk about, eczema and etc. So I asked him what his top two were, and he wanted to really talk about diet. And the second thing was anxiety and depression. So we talked about his diet. It was really meat heavy. He doesn't have a lot of time, and he felt like healthy food was really expensive. So I busted that myth. And then we talked about just his schedule and where he could work things in. And it is really tempting to have that really convenient food that you can just go from the freezer to the microwave, or when you're at a party, like you were saying. So we just talked about why he's here, why he decided to see a doctor, why he thinks that changing his diet would help him. And I asked him my favorite questions about what his life would look like down the road if he really took it seriously this time and got his weight down and all his numbers in check. And then the opposite. What would it look like if you just kept going down this path? Would you be able to play with your kids, and how would you feel? I think that really got him thinking. The other thing was, for the cravings, I usually start people off by telling them or suggesting that they have the apple or somebody today said peach, before the ice cream. And because people will say, oh, I want to stop the ice cream. But it never really works when you just take something out and you don't replace it. So I ask them what they're going to replace it with. And then I tell them what happens when you have a craving. And I think what I've seen the best results with is if they have the apple and allow themselves to have the ice cream as long as they've had the apple first. Because eventually they start to eat the apple and realize that they don't really need the ice cream anymore because they've created that distance. So I feel like that's worked the best so far.
Good thought. That's from our younger, upcoming medical doctor generation. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have any thoughts about anything? This is a topic we are going to keep coming back to, because there are always going to be people who are kind of struggling for a long while sometimes. And then it's sort of like a tipping point. You're on this, I want to do it, I don't want to do it, the ambivalence you have. There are some things that I like to do and don't. And that's where motivational interviewing comes in for our patients and for people who are, we're trying to encourage without telling them what to do. And Lisa has been spending quite a bit of time practicing, not being the authoritarian doctor, but doing the motivational interviewing with the patients. Being more like a coach. Anyone else?
Am I muted? Can you hear me, Charlie?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Is that Ken?
Yes, it is.
I could barely tell. The voice was a little scratchy, but tone came through. So welcome, Ken. What's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to add something. So I've been reading and listening to Dr. Greger and reading. I mean, I've read it 4 times, How Not to Die. So I've always been kind of suspect about the GMOs and avoided them, but Dr. Greger says, and I've heard this other places, and I've come to agree with it. We should be worried about pesticides and buy organic, at least the Clean 15. Or no, you want to buy organic of the opposite the Dirty Dozen. Anyway, so my point is, I try to eat carefully to avoid crops that conventionally have used a lot of insecticides, pesticides. But at this point in time, I wouldn't avoid food because it has GMOs. And GMOs are primarily just Roundup Ready corn to make these crops resistant to Roundup or glyphosate. So I don't know. Did I make any sense there?
Well, I sort of get the sense that you are avoiding foods that are GMO.
I was.
And you were. Now, have you stopped or are you?
No, I'd
What?
still prefer not to eat the GMOs because the principle of it scares me. But no, this relates to that saying, eat whatever you can find when it comes to fruits and produce.
Oh, okay. I get it.
So worry about insecticides more than you worry about GMOs. That's the bottom line. That's what I've been reading, and that's what he says it several times in How Not to Die.
And the irony of it is most of the GMOs, if you really want to avoid GMOs, you really want to avoid eating animal products because most of the GMO crops are fed to animals and then people eat animals. So people that are eating animals are getting more GMOs than people that are eating plant-based, actually. So
It's
That's all
interesting
I
when you step back and look at the big picture. All right. Who else has a question or comment or anything that they care to talk about? It's open forum.
I guess I would, sometimes like organic's better, but sometimes it's really expensive. But if you're going to eat conventional, really wash the things well, and maybe for the ones that are really heavily pesticided that aren't super more expensive, like potatoes, I think they're one of the most heavily pesticided foods. Maybe spend the extra money for organics, maybe with strawberries as well, or
Yeah.
buy them in season, but they're also really heavily pesticided.
it's like what Ken was saying, the Dirty Dozen. So you want to try to buy organic for the Dirty Dozen, and then you can buy conventional produce for the Clean 15. And yeah, so if I could always go over on the handout. I have a handout that has those on it, but you can pretty easily find those online.
Yeah, Google search Dirty
Mhm.
Dozen, Clean 15.
Mhm.
Easy to get to. Okay. Now, while we're waiting for the next person to work up the nerve to ask a question, we're gonna talk about maybe this coming Saturday, what's on the agenda in Eugene.
Yes, we
Scott?
got the first Eugene Plant-Based Providers Community Walk is this coming Saturday at 11 o'clock at South Eugene High School track. And I'll be sending out an email. If you're on the group email for these classes, I'll be sending out a reminder on Friday. So watch for that. It's also on the upcoming events page on EugenePlantBasedProviders.com website, so you can check it out. So that's this Saturday, and then fast approaching June 15th is the potluck with the Eugene veggies. That's it's on Saturday, June 15th at 6 p.m. at Island Park in Springfield, and This will be the third year in a row that Eugene Plant-Based Providers has joined up with Eugene Veggies for the potluck picnic. So hope to see you all there. And that's also on the upcoming events page on eugeneplantbasedproviders.com.
Take pictures and get recipes. Maybe
Oh.
post them on the
Okay. We should do that. Okay, talking about taking pictures. I know, and we're waiting for someone to speak up, but in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen and I want to share what I had for dinner tonight. Why do I want to do that? Just because I want to share with you a little bit of variety. And it was actually a fun dinner. I think you can see my screen, I hope.
Yep.
And let me see if the picture comes up. Okay, so here's the bowl. It doesn't have a shell around it. It just has a bowl. And so what's in the bowl? I could have you guess, but we don't need you to do that. I'll tell you what's in the bowl. The bottom of the bowl you can't see. It's brown rice. Now, where does that rice come from? Anybody worried about arsenic? Yes or no? I hope you are, because if you're eating a lot of rice, you want to get your rice generally from a source that doesn't have a lot of arsenic, and the soil is important where it's grown. In California, they don't have much arsenic, so we buy our rice from California. If you're used to living in the South, you may have a favorite brand, South part of the United States, and that soil tends to have more arsenic in it. So be careful about the rice that you're buying. Gregor has a couple videos on that. So anyway, underneath this bowl, from what you see, you don't see it very well, is the brown rice. What's on top of the brown rice? Well, if you look really closely here, you see these little brown things here? Those are beans. She had a combination, made a black bean and I don't know whether it was a kidney bean or some other kind of bean. Sometimes she does Swedish brown beans, my wife. But okay, so now we have rice and beans. It's sort of the McDougall central portion starch diet, so to speak. So those were the first two things that we put in the bowl. Then my wife roasted a number of different veggies. And let me tell you, she did a whole plate. And you can see what some of the veggies are. You could all guess what this is. This is cauliflower. And you might all guess what, let's see, what this is. This is sweet potato. And this here is baby, like zucchini squash, only it's baby size. And these were all just roasted in the oven. And they're pretty tasty. You know, it's a little different than just having the steamed or boiled. We had a dollop of this. You know what this is? It's hummus. There's different flavored hummuses. And this one, I think, was onion or garlic. And it just adds a little bit additional flavor, which we could take some of the beans or some of the veggies and just kind of swipe through the hummus. And so, you know, we already had beans. Do we need hummus? No, but it's like a garnish. It's a different flavor. And my mouth's watering as I'm talking to you about this, by the way. And then she added just a little bit of avocado. It's not a whole lot because, you know, avocados are pretty high calorie density. And for those of you who are trying to trim a little weight, I don't like to use that word, but if you do, try to avoid this higher calorie density food. But a little bit of it is probably okay. And the same thing goes for olives. You know, what is olive oil made from? It is made from olives. You squeeze the heck out of these olives, and what do you get? You squeeze them really tightly, and out drips, drip, 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 the oil, the fat. And what's left behind? You leave behind the fiber and many of the minerals and vitamins and stuff that make olives a healthy choice. And so I like eating the olives. I don't add the olive oil anywhere here. And then what's this here? It's just a little different taste. It's a little slice of bell pepper just for the fun of it. It's not like it's a big meal. It's just a little extra variety. So as you see, there's quite a variety here. And then what do you think we had for dessert? We happen to have raspberries and strawberries and grapes, and we picked raspberries tonight. So we had a few of those. And all in all, we had water for our for the drink. And I guess that's all I wanted to share with you. Now, if this amount looks too little for you, double it. Just add more into it. Just put in as much as you want of the things that you enjoy eating. It's very colorful and it's very tasty. And I did not know this 12 years ago. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if anybody has any comments about those food choices. Now, my granddaughter would say, "You're mixing that all together." And I say, "Yeah, that's what happens in your stomach." It all gets mixed together. So not to worry. And it is, the taste thrills are worth it.
Very colorful, looks good.
So right along with that, you can hear me again?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you, Ken. Go ahead.
I think you've mentioned it, but Dr. DeGregor talks about it a lot, and that's you should eat colorful foods. So he said eat red apples, pass up the green ones, except of course in pies. Then I don't know if it was he or you or both that said, you know, we already, I already do avoid russets. And so I've been searching for colored potatoes. And the meat, the potato itself is blue. And that's what Dr. Gregor's suggesting, that we eat colorful foods, including blue, or the potatoes I found at Fred Meyer's are blue, but they don't taste like potatoes. They taste like sweet potatoes. And that's fine.
Yeah,
It's just another way to get some colorful food.
good thought. Eat the colors of the rainbow as often as you can, every day.
But I didn't understand. I thought red potatoes were red skinned and had white starch, but they have them at Freddy's. They're actually blue inside. So it was a nice change.
Nice. Okay, Annie.
Okay, I have a question about bread. So last week I was really inspired by the speakers and I felt like, okay, Zoom, be SOS free and don't eat after dinner. And I just hit it on those things and it's working really well for me and brought my numbers back down. What about bread? They said they don't keep any in the trailer. I've always been very careful to get whole grain and, no sugar and blah, blah, blah. And mostly the sprouted wheat. But is it better just to leave bread out of your diet? And why? And talk about it, please.
I leave it out of my diet, and I'll let Scott tell you about why I might choose to do that.
Yeah, it's just going to depend on what your health conditions are. So if you're somebody that's already pretty healthy, you're not trying to lose weight, you're not on medications and things like that for diabetes or high blood pressure, then a little bit of bread, if it's a whole grain, is okay. There's nothing unhealthy about about the whole grain bread. It's just it's been processed because you took a wheat berry and you ground it down into flour, and then it has a different effect on the body. So it goes much higher in calorie density. So bread is 1,200 calories a pound, whereas wheat berry is only about 400 calories a pound. So you tripled the calorie density, making it into bread. But so if you're trying to lose weight, if you have diabetes, then it's probably best to limit the bread as much as you can, if not eliminate it, because you can get all the same nutrients and then some from eating the whole grains, from eating not they're going to sit and eat a bowl of wheat berries, but you'd eat brown rice and oats and quinoa and these intact whole grains that have all the fiber. They're still a whole food. And so when you eat a bowl of those with vegetables and things like that, you're getting all the fiber, all the nutrients. The blood sugar goes up really slowly. The amount of insulin goes up is very small in comparison to eating the bread, because the bread, I always say, think about, it's a hot summer day and you put a 5-pound block of ice on your driveway on a hot summer day. It's going to take a while for that to melt. But if you throw shaved ice onto your driveway on a hot summer day, it's going to melt on contact immediately, right?
Okay.
So that's the bread, is the shaved ice in the whole
Okay.
grain. But again, depends on your medical conditions. I mean, I do eat some bread here and there because I'm at a healthy weight. I'm not on any medication. I'm pretty active. I do lots of bike riding and stuff. So there's nothing wrong with eating a little bit of whole grain bread. But yeah, if I had diabetes or was trying to lose weight, I'd be careful with it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Yolanda. I don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I had earphones on. I love bread also. So I've been trying to find ways to get my bread fix that are healthier. And I hit on a recipe. I think it's pronounced Essene bread. And you sprout wheat berries and then blend them a bit, form a little loaf and bake it. And it was okay. It was just sprouted wheat, no yeast. There are more complicated recipes that add yeast and other things, but I think it was worth a try anyway. I don't know if anybody else.
Where did you find the recipe?
I found it online. And it's very easy to sprout wheat berries, very easy, just like you sprout mung.
Well, I found a recipe for biscuits in the Esselstein's book, where you just grind up oats, rolled oats, in a blender with walnuts, and add a little bit of baking soda and baking powder, and bake it for like 25 minutes or something. And you get these little biscuits, but it's still a little bit processed. It's still shaved ice.
You're absolutely right. It's a little bit processed, and depending on what your goals are, if you want to be, stick to the very healthiest, try to think about, is it growing on a tree? Can I pick it off the tree? Can I pick it out of the ground? Is this the form that comes in nature? And the more you eat foods like that, you get a lot of fiber, you get less processing, so you don't get that rise in rapid uptake of sugar into your bloodstream when you chop up the whole grain. Doesn't mean you can't have it. A lot of this is your mindset. The question is do you want it? What is it that you want to put in your mouth? What is your goal? And every time you reach for a food, if you ask yourself this question, is this really going to be the best choice for me to reach the goal I want in my personal life? And that way you're not saying, well, I can't have it. Don't say I can't have anything. Just say, I want to choose food that's actually gonna bring me the health that I want. And I never really spent much time doing that as I was growing up on this planet. I just ate whatever was available to me and I got used to it.
You
Just a
pull your
thought.
camera, put your camera down, Charlie, we can't
Okay.
see you.
All right. I forget about that.
Dr. Ross,
Yes, Lisa.
I see you're wearing a Blue Zones Project t-shirt.
Yes, I am. It's from Roseburg.
That's pretty cool. I'm kind of jealous. But
And
what
I'd
are your
love to see the Blue Zone come to Eugene one of these days.
I would too, and then down to LA, but that may never
There you go.
happen.
There you go.
Um,
Okay.
We've got Loma Linda though. But anyway, I was wondering what are your thoughts on sourdough bread? Because that's something that they kind of push with the Blue Zones.
Yeah, so it's a little bit lower. It's a little bit lower on the glycemic index because of the fermentation process. So I would kind of put it, even though it's white, I would put it, you can make wheat sourdough, but I would kind of put sourdough in the same category as a really hearty whole wheat bread, just because of the fermenting process. It lowers the glycemic index of the sugar, basically the carbohydrates in the bread. So that's a good choice too.
Mm-hmm.
So
What about Ezekiel bread?
Yeah, so any of those are going to be like yellow light foods because they are processed, even though again, it depends on your health and what your goals are and these other things. You can eat sourdough bread. In fact, Dr. Bolshevik, the fiber fueled guy, he loves that, you get what is it? The probiotics, and he likes using fermented products and those sorts of things. But the question is that the very healthiest choice? And if you happen to be a person who has a diabetes out of control, or you're trying to reverse heart disease, I don't know, from my point of view, I'm kind of a purist. And I have a mindset that doesn't feel deprived, but I also realize that not everybody has the same thought process as I do. And so, if your health is good and you're not having any medical problems, have the sourdough bread occasionally that you like. But if you're having some flares of some issues or whatever it might be, you might go back to just strictly foods as they're grown in nature, whole plant foods. That's my answer to your brief question.
Because a lot of people have food addiction issues even with flour products like bread. So it's like, it's kind of like that thing, if you're eating a lot of even if they're plant-based vegan desserts, for example, then, or even eating dark chocolate, then that's so hyper stimulating, it's so sweet that fruit's not going to taste as good, and that's not going to taste as sweet. So same thing with, if you're eating a lot of bread, then you'd be less likely to enjoy that bowl of the quinoa with the vegetables. So if you're eating a lot of bread at the same time you're eating the quinoa with vegetables, your brain's not going to be stimulated as much with the quinoa bowl with the vegetables as it will with the bread. And so then you're more likely to want the bread because it's getting that to that higher level of dopamine stimulation in the brain. Because if you think about it, it's really not a natural food. If you were living out in the hunter-gatherer days or whatever, we didn't know how to refine flour. We didn't have those kinds of things. But if we just boiled up some grains, pick the grains out of the fields when we started having agriculture, and then just had that in a bowl and had vegetables and things like that's more of a whole food. And so that's more natural, not going to stimulate the dopamine at the same level as when you find something that's really been refined. It's more of that unnatural level of stimulation. So if you're somebody that can have a little bit of that once in a while, yeah, there's nothing unhealthy about it. It's just if it's going to keep you from wanting to eat the healthier choice, then that's a hindrance then.
Okay, we're going back to the gallery to see if there's anybody else who has some thoughts, suggestions, anything on your mind that you'd like to bring up at this session. Next week, what's the session going to be like while they're contemplating the issue?
Yeah, the next 2 weeks is Dr. Colgrove doing plant-based diets for pediatrics and families. So kind of similar to what he did. If you guys, any of you went to the YMCA class he did a couple of weeks ago, he'll just go quite a bit more in depth than what he had time for there. But it's really good. So if you have grandkids, what to feed your kids, your grandkids, how to make this work in your families, it'll be a good couple of weeks of lectures from Dr. Colgrove. He's a pediatrician here in Eugene.
So, I'm still waiting for someone to step up to the plate. So, my mouth kind of tends to keep wandering around. In studying for becoming certified in lifestyle medicine, which Scott has already done, but I haven't. I've been reading a bit more about exercise and sleep and those kinds of things. And one of the things about exercise is the balance issue. I've kind of ignored that. I'm 75, going to be 76, and I kind of say, hey, I can be out on the tennis court for 2-3 hours at a time, and it's no big deal. And, I'm good. But then the more I think about it, the most common cause of hip fractures is falls. And I don't want to fall. So I want to have good balance, and tennis helps with that, but maybe there's something else. And so I ran into a Tai Chi instructor here in Eugene, and I happened to have a Tai Chi video from, I don't know, the World Books or whatever it was, DVDs they do from colleges around the country. It's been sitting around for 15 years, maybe 10 years. And so I whipped it out, and Christine and I started doing some Tai Chi together. And it wasn't so easy, particularly. And so now I'm motivated it has about 24 lessons, 24 different postures and the motion and standing on one foot. And, so I don't know how long it'll take me to get through that, but that's my latest activity. The other thing that I had genuinely ignored in my life, I would go walking every day and I'd play tennis for the aerobics, and the walking kept me upright. But I really never spent much time with resistance exercises like stretch bands or free weights. And so if you want to maintain your muscle mass, if you want to help your heart, the aerobics is great and the walking is great. But if you want to maintain your muscle mass, which is a healthy thing for you to do, you need to potentially think about stretch bands and maybe some cans of food or some light weights that you can start with and gradually increasing them to kind of build up and maintain the muscle mass that you have. Again, I'm 75, going to be 76. I don't know how long I maintain the muscle mass. And I can't live on one 11-minute plank alone. I recall Jack LaLanne when he was 77 years old. He towed 77 boats in this lake. I will never forget that. I think till my dying day, he's been someone I've looked up to for what I had known nothing about him other than I was very impressed as a child by that. Okay, I've said what I'm gonna say. Joan,
So to that effect, this is a really good book about strength training. And a newer version is this one.
deep fitness, huh?
And they talk about research-based program for strength training. They also talk about how we all were taken by storm with the aerobics when that came on the scene, and we all became runners. And a lot of those runners passed away because they overran. I
Yeah.
mean, you can do something to excess. So these books are kind of interesting to talk about exercise and
Has it
strength
helped?
training.
Have you started with those exercises yourself, or did you just get those books?
No, these are older books, but I do it at a place called Simply Strong in Eugene. And that is where you work with a trainer and you just maximize groups of muscles within a very short time period. And so the whole workout takes like 20 minutes and you only do it once a week because
Wow.
then you need a week to recover. So it talks about it in this. Anyway, Simply Strong is a location in Eugene if people want to do it with a trainer.
Thanks for sharing. Okay. We're
There's a
kind
question in
of,
the chat. There's a question in the chat about water filters. I know Dr. Greger has some videos on that. Guess it depends on the type. Some if you don't change them frequently enough, the water could end up being dirtier than the tap water. So it's also going to depend on where you live. I know we have a water filter in our fridge, and we just changed the filter recently. But there's the Brita ones. I think he does a video where he compares different water filters, and yeah, so it's kind of, I think for the most part here in Oregon, in Eugene especially, our tap water is pretty clean, pretty good. But there's nothing. Yeah, probably not a bad idea to use the filter too. I don't know what do you think, Charlie?
yeah, I use a filter. It's in our refrigerator and I replace the filter. I think it's once every 6 months. It's kind of a spendy issue, but I listened to Greger's video and he said, oh, you could probably let it go past the date. And then he looked at the studies and decided, no, he better not go past the date. You better change it, or, you wind up with bacterial growth or whatever it is in there. I can't remember exactly, but you're right. There is a video that he has. Another question on food combining. You want to address that issue?
What do they talk? I guess in what context? Combining
Like,
for what reason?
probably he's talking about beans and rice. That's been debunked, but he may be talking about bananas and browning. Bananas and apples and the foods that turn brown. I don't know if you want to deal with those issues. So I think it's Matt who has the question. Matt, fruit and protein, should they be combined? Yeah, it's okay to combine fruit and protein. Now, we want to try to bust the myth about we're not getting enough protein in our life. Remember, you're going to learn this from Dr. Colgrove over the next couple of weeks, that milk, mother's milk, is one of the healthiest human foods on the planet. It's given to an infant who's growing rate. They need an adequate amount of protein to build all new tissues in their body. And do you know how much protein is actually in there? Mother's milk, it's 5%, as I recall. We insist that, or our government considers 10% about as being a reasonable amount. That's twice as much protein as the most perfect human food on the planet. We have this obsession with protein, and when we're eating a meat-based diet, we're not getting 10%, we're getting 20, 30, 40% protein sometimes. We are just our kidneys. So don't worry about the protein. Okay, you're worried about enzymes. Okay, so if you're worried about enzymes, then you're into the realm of bananas. The latest research by Greger, or not his research, but the latest study, is that bananas and fruit that turn brown, the enzyme that I think turns the fruit brown can decrease the antioxidant effects of other fruits and vegetables in your diet. So if you combine a banana with blueberries, you'll reduce the antioxidants by about a third, is what I understand. You don't necessarily want to reduce antioxidants. You want to maximize them. And so, you know, we used to do bananas in everything. I did anyway, and I know Scott, I think, probably did too. And we both are trying to not do that. But I still say to myself, I'm probably getting enough antioxidants. If I have a banana and I have a few blueberries and I'm eating them close together, I am not going to stress over this. My life is not going to be lessened by any number of months or hours, I don't think, for whatever time I have left on the planet. And I think it's just an interesting fact that if you're not getting enough antioxidants, it might be an issue. But if you're eating a whole food, plant-based lifestyle way, you're probably getting enough antioxidants. If you're eating the foods that are higher in antioxidants, and not all foods are the same. We've got a session on that. I can't remember which session it was, in which it's another couple Greger videos where he talks about how much antioxidants we require. If you just do a search on his site for antioxidants, there's a couple good videos. First, how much antioxidants do men require and do women require? And then what foods contain the most antioxidants? And I must tell you, blueberries are really super high. I think that, I don't know, I think it's potatoes are pretty high in antioxidants. I can't remember all the antioxidants foods, but that are high. Have to look it up.
But they're all higher than processed food and animal foods. That's the key.
Yeah.
Those are super low in antioxidants or have none, and they produce free radicals, which is oxidation. So we want antioxidants to slow down aging. But yeah, like what I did, I used to always put my oatmeal in the morning. I used to always have blueberries, and I'd always put a banana in there. So now I still eat a banana, but I just eat the banana later. Because as long as you wait an hour or two after your stomach's emptied out, then it's okay to eat the apples or the bananas that turn brown. Because it's only, you just don't want to do it at the same time. So that's kind of what I've changed. Now I eat a banana or an apple later in the day and not with my breakfast at the same time. So that's what I changed personally from that study.
And some of you, if you say, I need the banana for my smoothie, you can say, well, maybe I'll put in mango instead or some other fruit. Wow, this has been fun. Any other last couple questions?
I just put in the chat a link if anyone wants some extra support. I know some people have been asking me for appointments, so there's a link in the chat, and then my email address if you want to join the book club, which is going to be next Thursday. We're continuing How Not to Age.
And all that information about Lisa's email and book club and her health coaching, all of that is in the Sunday newsletter that goes out every Sunday morning. So sign up for that if you haven't yet on the class website on the homepage.
And I must tell you, I've had a number of class participants who have nothing but good comments with the time that they've shared with Lisa. And the cost is right. You close your eyes, what do you see? Doesn't cost you anything yet. She doesn't have her degree yet. So when she does, she's going to be an expensive commodity perhaps. So take advantage of it now. Now, Karen, you mentioned that you feel like we're almost brainwashed about protein, and that is for sure. Our culture really focuses upon that. And, you know, your significant other has grown up in a culture that, you know, makes them feel like you need to be eating these foods like meat, dairy, and eggs if you're going to get enough protein. But it's an absolute myth. And the more of these classes you attend and the more videos and information you receive, the more comfortable you'll become that you'll get enough protein if you're eating enough calories. That means you're not hungry throughout the day. You're just eating enough of these lower calorie density foods, which are whole plant foods. Foods is grown in nature, fruit, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and a few nuts and seeds. It's very simple, but it seems so complicated when you're starting out. And there are so many barriers from the people around you. One of the things I feel good about my visit to Minneapolis, Minnesota this time is 12 years ago when I started this, I had some conversations with my daughter and her husband. They thought we were totally nuts. And they actually, at one point, each of them had told me, hey, we don't want to talk about this. We don't believe it. We wouldn't do it anyway. So stop it. And I took that on for almost 12 years now, not, you know, trying to, you know, it's tough when you have a kid who runs out into the street. You don't want them running around in the street. You gotta grab them out and say, hey, look, it's not safe out here. And that's how I've felt the last 12 years. And to see the change that my daughter has made and my grandkids in what they're choosing to eat, how they choose to live, it's really heartwarming, but it's a real barrier, very painful at times for not just with that child, but for my other two kids also. And we were able to have a good discussion about it this time. And I think we're heading down a new road, leaving that back in the past. Just a thought for any of you who are struggling, who have people who are opposed to what you're trying to do.
All right. Well, hope everyone has a good evening and a good week, and hope to see you guys next week. Or maybe at the walk on Saturday. That'd be great. And everyone's welcome to come. We have people that have come in wheelchairs, walkers, canes. So there'll be someone to walk with you no matter what pace you go, whether you're a brisk walker or move really slow and only make it one lap around, because it's more of a social event, but we're try to do some movement at the same time. So I hope you guys can come.
Thanks again, Scott.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.